I want us to begin our time together by cultivating a sense of community amongst everyone that's here. So to do that, drop your name, your current location, and then share what you do if you got just 1 extra hour in the day that could be given back to you. It could be devoted to work. It could be how you spend your personal time. We want to know what you would spend that extra hour on, because that's really at the spirit of what our time together is all about. And it's also how we're going to be building a sense of community amongst everyone that's here in the room. So while everyone is getting to know each other in the chat, let's dive right in. Rude of me to not introduce myself. My name is Michael Armstrong, and I'm a social impact program manager at Asana. Over the next hour or so, it is my honor to be your guide alongside Sam Sorkin, our customer enablement team lead. We've also got Romina and Ine from our team in the chat who'll be able to answer any questions that pop up for you. We'll also be joined by today's featured guest, Tim Pelkey, Director of Foundation Grants at Big Brothers Big Sisters of America. Together, we'll learn from Tim's experience how to use Asana to manage your grant life cycles to boost donor retention. And while this is top of mind for every development, fundraising, and grant professional here, I promise you that Tim's experience and journey with Asana contains learnings that are going to be valuable for everyone. So what's in store for today? First and foremost, we're going to be learning from Tim's experience as we follow the Foundation Grants team's journey with Asana, discovering how they were able to maximize their resources and time, scaling the impact of their team, and advancing the mission of Big Brothers Big Sisters. Our time together will also include opportunities to hear from you. We want to make sure our conversation is made richer by the collective wisdom in this virtual room. So have your smartphone ready and join the conversation when prompted and share your experience. Finally, we'll be seeing Asana in action to kickstart how you can make the impact realized by Tim and his team true for you in your Asana. We've set aside 90 minutes to cover all of the above, which I know is a lot, but if you can't stay for all of it, know that we're going to be sending access to the recording within the week so you can pick up right where you left off. I want to quickly note a few principles that are going to be guiding the spirit of our time together. There are 3 ways that you can show up today. Be present with a spirit of exploration, seeing what resonates in the experiences shared with what's true for you and your team. We ask that you keep a spirit of curiosity and openness to what the future could look like if you were open to change. Last, but certainly not least, we ask that you stay engaged with us, both in the chat and when prompted, because the last thing we want to be doing is talking at you. So consider this our personal invitation to be a part of our conversation. After we've concluded our webinar, you'll receive a follow-up email within the week, which is going to contain this slide deck, a PDF of our customer story featuring the Foundation Grants team, and a link to the Asana for Nonprofits Bootcamp Training #2. This resource is essential, and it's so important that we're going to be dropping a link to it in the chat right now. Click it to quick import a self-guided training that will teach you how to scale your impact with templates. And for those who enjoy the music that we've chosen, we'll also include a link to today's playlist. So with that, we want to hear from you because it's time to connect. What is one project, campaign, initiative, really anything that you've done with your team that has a deadline that you know you're going to be doing again? We're going to head over back to Mentimeter because I know everyone already has their smartphones open, but if not, go to menti.com and use the code 8702-8338 and join us because we want to hear from you. This is open-ended. What is time to, what is something that you know you're going to be doing again, but you'd like to do better, but you'd like to do differently? Annual grant budgets for contracts to funders, right on target. We're going to be talking about how you can take that process that you've created that's worked and been successful into a template that's scalable because you know you're going to do it again. Holiday gift campaign, under midterm reports, large scale campaigns. This is table stakes for all nonprofits. And it looks like everything here is something you're going to be doing more than once in a year. So this is perfectly aligned with the goals that we've got set out for you today. All right, I'm going to swipe back into our presentation so that we can dive right in. So I want to start by talking about the Asana difference. We know why this work matters, but it's important to us that you know why Asana is uniquely suited to solve problems that stem from the old way of work. Today, most organizations are organized functionally, but the work that they do is actually cross-functional. In order for teams to innovate and deliver more efficiently, they actually need to work cross-functionally. Your organization's strategic initiatives require coordination across all teams and locations. Think of your nonprofit's resource development goals. From fundraising campaigns to grant writing, securing public and private support to advance each of your missions is the perfect example of where nonprofit development, marketing, and your community engagement teams need to work together in order to be successful. This level of cross-functional coordination requires an up-to-date record of who is doing what by when across all of these teams. Successful development strategies responsible for fueling your nonprofit's impact require seamless collaboration across all of these teams. But department-specific silos make it really challenging for different teams to get on the same page. Technology up until this point has only been able to provide solutions that use the container model. So whether you're using email or spreadsheets, all of your data lives in that one container. And that's because container data models require data to be organized by team or department or project. As a result, information can't flow between your teams or projects, and everyone has to adopt the exact same way of working. Or you duplicate that work that creates copies of other people's work, and that just makes tracking progress almost impossible. That lack of flexibility that the container data model imposes upon teams becomes a major issue, because the more successful your organization has been at this, the more complex and distributed your teams grow to be, and the bigger this need to stay aligned becomes. But there's a better way to structure work data. Asana's work graph captures the relationship between the work your team does, the information about that work, and all of the people doing the work. Creating a map of how your organization's information fits together isn't just a nice to have. It's an essential part of communicating across teams more effectively. Without one, you can't understand how your team's project move the needle on your overall organization's success metrics. Teamwork is based on trust. When teams share the same set of facts, they're able to work towards their organizational objectives with clarity and align on priorities in real time. Leading with a cross-functional mentality, you unblock siloed work and empower collaboration instead of stifling it. This single source of truth, letting you know who's doing what by when, is your pyramid of clarity. This is how we break down the container model and how you can break down your silos. And that's the Asana difference. But you're not here to take my word for it. You're here to learn what is possible when teams are aligned and what that means for the communities each of you serve. To help share their experience of impact and action, we have no better guest to feature than Big Brothers, Big Sisters of America, nor a better suited thought leader to invite than Tim Pelkey. So Tim, come on down to our virtual stage. It's time to shine.
Hi, Michael. Great to be with everybody today.
We are so excited to have you. So maybe to start things off, why don't you share a little bit about the work of Big Brothers, Big Sisters of America?
Yeah, Big Brothers Big Sisters of America is actually the largest and oldest youth mentoring organization in the United States. We've been around over 100 years, and our program model is really very similar to actually when we started. And it goes back to our mission statement, creating and supporting one-to-one mentoring relationships that ignite the power and promise of youth. And these mentoring relationships are unique in the sense that they're supported by professional staff through what we call match support. And similar to caseworkers, essentially, you've got someone as a volunteer, not just on your own. You get support from a professional staff member as youth and families work through challenges to help equip you with that. And we also provide a variety of specialized mentoring programs, including and really emphasizing areas of passion and interest both for youth and volunteers, including workplace mentoring. We have a law enforcement mentoring program called Bigs and Blue, and a variety of others as well.
Love the work that you do. But what about your team? What does your team specifically do?
Yeah, we're called the Foundation Grants team, and it maybe isn't the best description. We're actually the post-award team. Over the years, our role has evolved and changed somewhat, but essentially, once our resource development team brings in a corporate or foundation funder, my team executes on the project. And you can see a picture of our team, and I know Emily is on the call actually today as well. She wasn't in that photo, but I want to give her a shout out as well. So we manage corporate and foundation grants. Right now, we have about 20 active projects, roughly $6 million in funding for those, and a variety of corporate and foundation funders from across the country. Just a few. The NFL is one of our sponsors. Starbucks, Comcast, NBC Universal, JP Morgan Chase. So a variety of different funders, corporate and foundation with different needs. In terms of what we do that's kind of unique, I would say we are not just executing on this grant for the funder, but a big focus of our work is how can we take this project and use the lessons learned from that to benefit our network of agencies. We have over 230 local offices across the country, pretty much in every community across the United States. And so the lessons we learned passed down to the local level in terms of providing handbooks and custom programmatic materials, curriculum projects for work with youth. We do a variety of handbooks and webinars, all really designed to help educate our network and help them succeed in their work. And then we're also the liaisons for the research community as well. So variety of different things and always changing, which is fun.
That is a pretty wide band-aid. That also covers a pretty wide range of needs for the grants that are awarded. So could you use that as an opportunity to talk about compliance and why that matters? Also, just what that is.
Yeah, compliance is obviously a big thing. And previously, you can do some background research. We had some challenges at our national office in a previous regime that got us in a lot of trouble. So it really became an area of focus, especially when this department got formed in 2015. And over the years, we've refined our processes. And with that, Asana has kind of helped us take it to the next level, because non-compliance for us means losing a funder and potentially getting in trouble, even beyond that on a legal level. It's the type of thing that can threaten the existence of an organization like ours. So very important.
Yeah, compliance usually becomes really important when something goes wrong. As an experienced professional in this field, when do you feel is the right time for organizations to be intentional in thinking about compliance?
Yesterday.
Okay.
I mean, truthfully, though, if you wait to think about compliance, you're going to have problems with compliance, because it really needs to be from the outset.
Okay, that is really important information. Do you have a sense about when you've seen what happens when folks think about compliance at the wrong time?
Well, I mean, it could lead to essentially not submitting your reports on time. I know it could. I mean, the biggest problem, I think, being on the financial level, if you're not handling the accounting side, which I know our finance team is my best friend for that reason, because they keep us all out of trouble. Being able to keep accurate books on your projects and spending down the grant funds appropriately. If you don't do that, you could end up with funds left over that you have to give back to the funder that you could have used to further your mission work if you didn't spend them down at the correct time.
Mhm. All right, I love that. It's super important for us to really set the scene around how important this work is. But I want to hear more. So why don't we set the stage around what the needs of your team was when you're getting started looking for a work management solution?
Yeah, the first one is operational efficiency. The need to be able to make good use of the resources that we have available. Just one thing, and I'm sure those of you that work in grants can definitely relate. The grant department isn't the top priority in terms of when we're growing our staff. It's usually the department that you want to keep lean because you can put the money towards other things. So being efficient with staffing, with funding, even in previous eras, office supplies, all those things, really do make a big difference. Second one is scalability. It's the need to have processes in place that can be replicated across projects, so you're not starting from scratch every time a new funder comes in. And as the number of projects grows, because you have replicable processes in place, it's easier. You hopefully get smarter, and it takes less time to do things over time. And then also cross-functional alignments, the need to be able to collaborate across teams, particularly on projects that are more complex. And I know we're facing that more and more as an organization as we get projects that involve 4 or 5 different departments, and we're sometimes kind of the ringleader of a group, and getting everybody together to work together and on the same page is somewhat of a process in and of itself.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I love the call out around the importance of not just building that one process that works, but iterating on it to make sure it keeps getting better. And that's part of not just optimizing the process, but helping you scale. All right, this is super clear and concise about what you needed. And I don't think that you're alone in any of these needs. I think everyone in the audience is going to be able to really connect with that. But how is success measured for you? Like, how do you know that your team is actually doing it better?
Yeah. I mean, one is reports in on time. I know some of you have seen in the chat have been in the grant industry a long time and can definitely relate to that. The funder also wants to be recognized in that. So how do we recognize them with that? Donor retention is a big thing. I mean, keeping existing donors happy and in place for a long period of time really does help just from a funding stability perspective as you hopefully grow from there. Mm-hmm. And then no news is good news. I mean, we're the department that if we're doing our job, most of the time, nobody knows we're around. I mean, and a lot of times, I almost take it as a compliment that sometimes our leadership forgets that we're in the room because they don't they don't have to worry about us sometimes, which is good.
I love that. Wizards behind the curtain. That makes a lot of sense. Perfect. So while we're in our time machine and thinking about what your needs were 2 years ago before you started this process, let's get a little bit of a sense around the status quo for how your team did their work before Asana. Oh, I think you're on mute. There we go.
Yeah, I have to give our previous leader, Hillary Bartle, a lot of credit. She came in back in 2015 when we had been through a very difficult period and really worked to define our processes. And, with that, a lot of it was in her head, especially as people came and went a little bit. And Asana really helped us to kind of get those things distributed across our teams so there was a clear understanding, not requiring as much guidance from her. So, with the implementation systems weren't necessarily standardized and centralized, except for kind of in her mind, not necessarily on paper. And that created bottlenecks because she needed to be so involved in a lot of different things that everything essentially went through her. And Asana's really helped us in the sense that we've been able to distribute the work more across our team and give people more autonomy in completing their assignments. And then siloing, and every organization obviously faces this. Even though we're a small organization, it's been a challenge sometimes working across departments, especially as we moved into this COVID era, where all of us are actually working remotely now. So not having a shared space to be able to share information, between teams created some challenges. and sometimes things would slip through the cracks because of that.
Yeah, and you mentioned how COVID has impacted just those information silos existing, but did you feel that across all of these like status quo states of how you worked?
Yeah, I mean, and it wasn't intentional. I mean, a lot, it just, there wasn't a place, for people to gather regularly. And sometimes, I mean, in part, because there's so much going on in our organization, there was a lot of avoidance of meetings where discussions that needed to be had maybe weren't had because people didn't want to have a meeting and, their perception waste time. And so, we didn't have a place to gather that information and we didn't want to meet. And so sometimes that created issues.
Yeah, so it's not just that they didn't want to meet, it's that folks were meeting all the time, but it wasn't seen as productive, right? Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All right, so let's dig into how your work actually got done. So let's focus a little bit on the process and the tools that you use to do it.
Yeah, we're a Microsoft organization, heavy use of Microsoft Outlook, Microsoft Teams, and just monitoring, the chat that's going on, kind of throughout the day is something, regular issue in our organization, and keeping track of that and what decisions have been made when there's just so much email traffic coming on and through every day. And then second thing, using spreadsheets to track processes. And, because, we didn't have a way to necessarily check things off in a spreadsheet other than documenting things. It created, really cumbersome spreadsheets that often had, maybe 20 tabs sometimes, just so we could keep track of, decisions that have been made and revisions. Asana's really allowed us to kind of streamline some of that stuff. And then also reliance on in-person conversations, and as we've moved remotely, this has become more and more something that we've had to confront, that I couldn't just go down the hall and have a conversation with our fundraising team or marketing team. I had to intentionally schedule time with them, and relationships have changed obviously over time with COVID too, with turnover and things like that. So maintaining all those things has become very much a part of our role. But not having that documentation sometimes of, this conversation happened and a decision is made, for example, to give one of our agencies X amount of dollars, created problems because, when it came up later, there was an email in somebody's file that we had to go through lots and lots of things to find, for example.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. At Asana, we call this work about work. It's not even just the important meat of that work that drives your mission forward, but it's looking for all of those details. It's the meetings about meetings. I know that this is resonating with everyone in the room. So if you feel it, we want to hear it in the chat. But now that we know the processes in place and the tools that you all were using, what were the pain points that you experienced as a result of that? Like, what wasn't working?
Yeah, just overall lack of standardization in terms of our systems, which made it hard to replicate. We had to start from scratch essentially every time we started a new project. And we talk about kind of the work about work. There was just a lot of wasted time and effort with things that, without standard processes in place, were just very cumbersome. And then also collaboration was misaligned. I mean, sometimes, just the layout of our office, I mean, we collaborated with the teams that were closest to us, but not necessarily other teams who maybe we should have been speaking with.
That makes a lot of sense to me. And, the systems and the processes are super important because these are all pains that we've felt ourselves. But how have you seen this impact the folks on your team? Like, were there any people pain points?
Yeah, and just I know, especially when I started, our national office had went through a lot of challenges, and it was a high stress place to work. And with that, we had a very high burnout rate among team members for a while there. And with that, we were very reliant, because we had a small team. When somebody left, it was a major issue, because when you have 4 people and 2 of those people leave in a 6-month period, who's gonna do that work until we hire somebody else? And with that, they left just with so much knowledge of how we did things. Somebody had to step in and kind of relearn all that stuff.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty common pain point in the nonprofit space. So I know that folks are nodding their heads in agreement, unfortunately. But with that said, Tim shared his experience and he painted a pretty detailed picture of the obstacles that were faced by his team. So I want to hear from everyone here. Let's head back over to Mentimeter. We want to hear a little bit more about some of the risks that each of you face in your work. So what happens if an obstacle pops up and you miss a deadline? You have a timeline that is set off track. What does that mean for the work that you do and how it impacts the communities that you serve? So let's head over to menti.com and use the code 87028338. This is freeform, and we're going to be creating a word cloud together. We want to hear from you. So to join the conversation, head over to menti.com using the code 028338. We want to know what the risks and pain points are for your team and how the work that y'all do impacts or impacted negatively if something goes off track. Time what some of those risks are. Well, maybe while folks are oops, all right, this sounds like the sound went out. The code is at the top. It is 87028338. And maybe as folks are ruminating about the risks, might be a little triggering because it's very close to home. Tim, why don't you share what some of the obstacles would be in your line of work around what would happen if you miss, let's say a detail is wrong, you miss a timeline, things are set back.
Yeah, great question. Just in terms of mistake, really, our work goes back to deliverables in terms of meeting the deliverables set by the funder in our grant agreements. Mm-hmm. And when those deliverables aren't met, we have a funder that's not happy. In some cases, it puts our funding advancement for the future in jeopardy. Just a variety of different challenges with that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We're going to continue on. Well, actually, let's see if folks started in. No, it looks like we haven't yet. Well, that's okay. I think it's top of mind for everyone here and why we're here today. So let's start thinking about the solutions, because I think we're all ready. Tim, you decided to focus your efforts on building systems and processes for your team to start managing grant life cycles. Let's start with your vision. And how about we start with what your ideal state looked like?
Yeah, for us, number one is standardization of systems. Standardization of, just in terms of how we manage the life cycle of how we manage a grant from when the funding comes in to submitting the final report and closing out is just really critical, for us. It cuts down on the mistakes. You make mistakes when you don't have your processes clearly defined. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you, we have a template that we use that is kind of everything in the kitchen sink for how we manage our grants. And that's customized somewhat depending on the funder. Some projects have funding to hire consultants to help advance our work. Others don't. Some we pass funding through to our local agencies. Others we don't. But having, being able to define that from the start and customize it makes a big difference. Second thing is eliminating bottlenecks. We want our team members to really own their own projects and champion them. And because we've been able to move to a more distributed work model that's less reliant on the director, that's really helped empower employees and really increase their satisfaction, I think, in their roles. The other thing is developing institutional memory and keeping it. You know, that's really a key part. There's just, you know, I can tell you, being the director here for the last, I guess going on 10 months now, there's a lot of things you have to think about, you know, when you manage this many projects. So having things written down, standard processes in place, where we're documenting decisions that are made, Asana has really helped us it's freed us up and given us time to be able to work on other things.
Yeah, can you talk about a little bit about the idea of collective brain power and how that's impacted?
Yeah, burnout is a major thing, and I know you shared some stats, in 29% in the nonprofit sector, which is just really hard to believe. You know, especially people obviously working in mission work. But I totally understand, and I've seen it throughout my career. If you lose that one person, you know, obviously, and we've had changes over the past year just during COVID as people have advanced to new opportunities in their career, and we definitely champion that. But you really do present the potential for things to kind of get off track and people to get dissatisfied. So documentation is obviously very key to that.
Yeah, and you know, when you lose that expert that has all of that expertise in their mind and they go on to somewhere else, that's an exponential loss. Very hard to replace. Tim, this is my dream state too. And I know that it's the dream state for all of us here. So how about we use the chat this time? Are these visions resonating with you? Did one spark a little bit more joy than another? Or did something else come to mind that's really important for your team that embodies the vision for your ideal state of work? So let's start sharing those in the chat because we want to know. And maybe to get the ideas flowing a little bit, why don't we play just a little bit music? All right, it sounds like bottlenecks are a major problem. Sounds like there's a lot of all of them. So it sounds like, Tim, you got the finger on the pulse of exactly what is needed. That's not just specific to your team, but really is a common need across the sector. We got five standardizations of systems back to back. That is resonating. Maybe while folks continue to discuss this in the chat, is there one thing that popped up first that was like, I need to focus on this before I can really drive progress anywhere else? Or did you take on an approach that was, I can do more than one thing at a time?
I mean, I think that, you know, the biggest thing is kind of our standard process for how we develop what we call our action plans, which is essentially our grant application. And those can get complex, and, you know, we have up to 30 of our agencies on projects at one time. So having kind of a standard way to develop those, release those, and review those really open up a lot of things for us, because it can be very cumbersome just going through that process. For those of you that review grants, I'm sure really do.
I can imagine. Yeah. I mean, even if you're a smaller nonprofit, and you're, you know, maybe new there, you walking into, let's say, 10 different types of grants that they've secured in the past. That's just what happens in one agency. And you're talking about 30 different agencies at one time, for example, right? Yeah. Okay. So let's take that ideal state. We want to take our exercise one step further. And maybe instead of heading into Mentimeter, because I want to make sure that everyone is able to see each other's contributions and answers, just in case the system's lagging, let's drop it in the chat. What would your ideal world look and feel like? Because as Tim mentioned, this is as important to focus on process as it is to focus on how that's impacting the team and how they're feeling about their work. So let's build a virtual word cloud in the chat. Feel free to contribute more than once, because we're here to dream a dream. Paid staff. I love that. I mean, really, that's what it's all about, right? Because the work that you do, Tim, and securing these grants, this is about making sure that you've got the funding to support the staff that's there because they're passionate about the mission. You want to be able to keep them. That makes a lot of sense. Cross-training and visibility of work, information in one place. Lots of money coming in. I love that because, Tim's going to be sharing his story of success around how taking one successful grant template to manage the life cycle of that grant, and how we're able to then build that out to scale using templates. Sam and I are going to be showing you how to do that. But it sounds like folks are sharing pretty much the same vision. It changes just a little bit, but at its core, a lot of it is resonating with what you shared. So let's keep those visions and that ideal dream state alive. And let's think around the process pain points that you shared earlier. Let's talk about the benefits you saw once you realized that vision, and share a little bit about the magic. What happened next?
Yeah, sure. We at our national office started using Asana in January of 2020. And little did we know that an organization that essentially all of our staff, I think except for 2 people, were working physically in the office, would go remote and never come back to the office. So being able to standardize systems, especially, as you had to be more intentional about communicating with colleagues, became a major thing for us and really helped us to be more successful in transitioning. I wouldn't say seamlessly, but much more effectively as we move to remote work. Another thing is improved communication. Team members have a clearer sense of who's working on what and how their work fits in the bigger picture, which is a major thing. It's helped people to see the value of their work in a way maybe they didn't see before. From filling in a spreadsheet of contact info, why that's so important. Because if you don't have the correct context, you can't even distribute the funds to the correct people at the right agencies, which is something we've had to work through. Another thing is institutional memory. It's less disruptive when team members leave because we have documented processes. We can also onboard new employees much more quickly.
I love the point you made around people feeling close to their work and using a tool like Asana versus something in a spreadsheet that makes you feel a degree or two of separation from really the impact that you're making in the work that you do. Tim, appearances are deceiving because just achieving one of these one-liners is a really big deal. So how about we start to unpack what each of these means together? What were some of the benefits that you saw when you started to standardize your systems, and what did that look like for your team?
Yeah, I mean, the first one being standardized workflows, and that translated into we call it our grant management template. Mm-hmm. And that is the source. Anytime we start a project, we've got that template, and we're using that to set up the new project from day one. And it really has helped us, things don't slip through the cracks. And we're able to customize much more quickly depending on the project. We can set things up in an hour or two, whereas it may have taken a day or so in the past. Definitely saved a lot of time there. And then also streamline processes has helped us really to be forward thinking in terms of the future. One of those being having we call it our active project tracker, which is our master data point for everything that's happening right now, everything including when all the reports are due. We're actually cross-linked across projects to this master project. The amount of funding, all the deadlines from start date, end date, and including how we tag the time in our payroll system as well. It's kind of a master, essentially project. The second thing is risk and issue tracker, which is a term from project management. This is something new that we've actually recently started over the last month. That I think it has been really helpful intentionally. What's really a problem, versus what could be a problem, and what do we need to be doing to mitigate some of those issues. And then the last thing, which is also a innovation for our team, is the grant portfolio. been a really fun one to see. My team members actually have the opportunity to provide updates monthly on their grants. And that allows our executives to have a high level update just in terms of where things stand, which projects are on track, off track, and what are we doing to fix it, essentially, which is obviously what they're the most interested in. And this is also translated to, right now we're in the process of developing our new 5-year strategic plan, which is super exciting, but it's a lot of work. And I know our person that's managing that has actually been able to use it in some of the goal features to help give our executive team a bigger picture of, kind of what it looks like, which is going to help us when it gets in place to actually break it down into who's working on what and monitor it in a higher level way than we did, 5 years ago when we had our previous strategic plan. And some things got lost really just because nobody was actively attending to, like who was even owning what in some of those instances.
Yeah, you mentioned portfolios and goals. I just want to confirm for folks here, what Asana plan are you on again?
Yeah, we're on, I think it's the enterprise package. So we have a higher level subscription. I know everyone won't have access to it, but I can tell you it's really valuable, especially if you have a large number of grants. It provides, that feature is really helpful just for high level leadership updates on your projects.
Yeah, that's great. Well, just, to level set access to portfolios and milestones. You have access to this with Asana Business. For organizations that are at a larger level and have really acute security needs, enterprise is the solution for you, but we can dive into that a little bit later. I do want to know if there were any aha moments or discoveries that you made along the way as you focused on this.
Yeah, I think, it's been interesting that I think the number one aha moment for me was the understanding the interconnection, how I could connect, tasks across projects to, essentially have different views for different people in the organization. Because, obviously our leadership only wants to know kind of the high level updates versus they don't want to be in the weeds on individual projects, but knowing, having different levels of views for different audiences and being able to customize features just based on cross-tagging features with that.
Perfect. So, all right, Tim, let's talk about the time that was reduced in it took in, executing your grants.
Yeah, number one, it really did cut, the times to set up a new project with one of our grants dramatically, 50%. From, we're able to get a new project going in an hour or two, whereas it would have been, up to even a full day in the past. Another thing is it's allowed us to really scale just in terms of how much funding that we manage in a major way without, adding staff. I know we'll talk more about that later. But we actually managed 2.5 times as much in funding as we did from when we started with Asana, and essentially with the same, actually less people technically than we had at that time. So that's definitely been a huge success.
That's pretty wild. So you're managing 2.5 times more grants. That's more partners, more projects, more works, and you're saying that you didn't have 2.5 times more people. It was exactly the same.
Yeah,
that's pretty incredible. But guess what? We've got good news for everyone here. That's not just an anecdotal point either, because it's also backed by research. An independent study by Nucleus Research found that teams that use Asana can cut time to complete a project by up to 50%. So Tim, you're living proof of this. All right, so now that we talked about process, let's talk about the improvements you saw in communication and coordination.
Yeah. Number one, obviously, if you're in grants, you're writing a lot of reports. And Asana has really allowed us to be able to break report writing down into smaller chunks of work and assign that to different people working there. I can tell you right now, we're working on the report for our biggest funder, and all 4 of my team members are working on different aspects of that. And that has been facilitated because we have Asana and we can actually assign them different parts of the project to work on and then monitor it at a high level, through the actual project itself. The second thing is improved collaboration across teams. And that's been really important. I've talked about COVID with that, but also it's allowed us to work more closely with our consultants. We're able to actually, through Asana, have external users that don't have paid for accounts through Asana. And so we can add a consultant onto a project just for a segment of it. And that's allowed us to be able to monitor their progress on the work as well.
I love that. I'm sure your team loves that. But what did your donors think of it?
Yeah, and that's been a major thing. Just in terms of, we have a lot happier donors because obviously they get their reports done on time. Because we're not spending so much time on processes, we're able to get better outputs for them as well in terms of the benefits we derive for our network, the toolkits, all those sort of things. And then better storytelling around our grants as well. We can get on the phone and through other sources to collect information from agencies that maybe we would have been more tied up in processes in the past.
So if you could distill those benefits into results and impact, like how would you describe that?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of benefits result wise, number one being, I would say the continuation of funding, has been a major part. The other thing is, just time savings for our team as well. And I see the slides up now. Yeah, a reduction in reporting time. Essentially, I would say it takes us about, essentially 20% of the time to write reports as it used to. And then no missed deadlines over the course of the last couple of years, which is a true testament, I think, to our team and also Asana being able to help organize and prioritize our work with that.
0 missed deadlines. That is aspirational, but it's also nice to know that it's possible. All right. So everything you did simply by virtue of it happening in Asana created that single source of truth and institutional memory. What did that look like for your team?
Yeah. So the conversations that we have, with different staff members working on projects, we've been able to better document them. It wasn't, all these like emails in a folder. We could actually track decisions made in Asana to be able to, have kind of a running log of what's been decided on a project. Compliance is much clearer, I would say. It didn't live in the minds of, a few staff members, but it was, very clear and spelled out. So people knew kind of where things were headed with grants throughout the process. And then, we've had people come and go, and I'm sure all you, obviously this has been a very disruptive period in the labor market over the last couple of years. We've had people go and get wonderful opportunities, in part because of the work they've done at BBBSA, which, we love and we celebrate them. But it's much easier to bring people on board than it was before. I mean, when I started, it really took about 6 months to get fully up to speed and, be managing your own projects. I mean, I think we've definitely at least cut that in half. And as we continue to learn, getting people from, being kind of in the shadows to taking the lead on things at an earlier point in their career increases their satisfaction as well, because they don't feel like they're kind of just like sitting there watching, but they actually own some things themselves is key.
Yeah, let's drill down on that around how your team felt about felt and was impacted by these changes, because we're focused on process. Let's talk about your team.
Yeah, really, moving from a reactive to a proactive environment was a big, really aided, I think, through our use of Asana. And because of that, we didn't function so much in this high stress, environment, that it was always like one crisis to another. Because we knew what work needed to be done, we didn't have to anticipate so much. I mean, which when a problem did come up, it was more of a unifying factor than all like freak out type of moment. And then optimization really, helped us with just in terms of avoiding burnout with staff and increasing I think our team's satisfaction in a major way. Just culturally, I would say, I haven't been here about 4.5 years, and I'm not taking credit for this, but I think as an organization, it's become a much better place to work, in part because of some of the systems we put in place as well. And then institutional memory, we would say, it's been democratized. It's not so much reliant upon a few people in the organization being the source for all knowledge about things. But because we have documented, in terms of our structure is a lot more organized, it's easier for people to independently go and find information than it was in the past.
I love that. So we talked about process, how it impacted your team. What about how it impacted your organization and the mission that each of you is working to drive?
Yeah, the first one, because we're known as a reliable funder, I think for our corporate and foundation funders, they want to work with us. And in some cases, they want to give us more money in the future because of the success we've had in the past, which really, I think, speaks to some of the work that we've done with that. Another thing is it's allowed us to really, because of the success we've had, and we have a resource development team as well, that's been able to sell the work that we've been doing, and it's led to more money going out the door to our local agencies, which is the money directly being put to use to match kids with mentors and support that work, which is critical. The other thing, it's really helped, all teams benefit from, having kind of a single source of truth, in the sense that knowledge-wise, it's much easier to find information. And which helps people to align, really mission-wise in a major way.
You mentioned how important donor retention is. Could you explain why that matters and why it's so important?
Yeah. I mean, if you're starting from scratch every year as an organization, you essentially have to find all new funders. That's an instability situation for you as an organization. Whereas if you're getting renewals every year, you can build upon those renewals and hopefully grow your funding stream, and it obviously puts a lot less stress just on the fundraising team in terms of supporting staff salaries and things like that, because there's not so much instability from a financial base for the organization.
So before we started this process, I did a little bit of research, and it looked like the average donor retention rate is somewhere around 40%. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I'm not sure industry standards, but I'm not surprised by that.
Okay. So why don't we dive into the actual impact and like the metrics around that? What was your donor retention rate, taking just like, last year as an example?
Yeah, last year we were at 81%, which, during a time of, obviously economic uncertainty and things like that, is really, I think, a tribute to just the processes we have in place, and obviously our outstanding resource development team as well. And then also the money that we pass out the door to our local agencies increased by 50% as well. Okay, that's incredible. Which has allowed us to really, and that is corporate and foundation grant makers strictly, Okay, we're less, as a national office, less reliant upon individual giving than maybe some other organizations. We have a corporate foundation, and federal grants are our primary source of revenue. That's
actually the perfect segue for me. We've spent our time discussing the 3 core benefits, and we learned how your team's impact grew, your donor retention rate was improved, and how this all impacted your mission. But did you see other teams at Big Brothers Big Sisters benefit from this? Like, was this just a nonprofit solution that you used, or can other teams find value based off of the exact same focus areas that you invested your time in?
Yeah, one of the fun things over the last couple of years is seeing other departments see some of the work that we're doing and say, oh, we could apply this in this context. I know when we first got started, we did a series of lunch and learns with our network right before COVID. And I don't think I realized at the time like how many people are actually listening and putting the things to use. And we did some follow-up this year, and we're really pleasantly surprised about how Asana had been a solution for multiple different needs in the organization. Just to give you a few examples, our IT team uses Asana to forms to actually manage tickets that are submitted for IT assistance. Our HR team uses it to manage new hire onboarding. Our federal grants team has this really cool tool that they have over 100 agencies that are funded through federal grants. So it's a major, just in terms of logistically managing that many different agencies at the same time. But they actually have, essentially they're calling it their organizational health dashboard, where they're able to look at a high level every agency where they're tracking in terms of the number of matches they're making and see who's having issues. And that tells them who they need to provide some additional support and assistance to, which has been key. And that team as well has really embraced Asana and grown their federal grant funding over the last few years because of the processes and things that they have in place.
I love that. I mean, just all of the impact that you've had in the work you did with your team is impressive. And I can imagine how that is just an exponential effect. The more teams get to use Asana and experience that magic too. All right, I want to be mindful of our time. Let's just take a moment to stretch. Tim, that was amazing. And I actually want to have folks get off of mute to give Tim and his team all the flowers for what they've done, because this is really incredible. So let's have that really sink in. And I know that we've got a lot of curious minds with us today. So little bit of the training, because I'd love for us to, it sounds like folks are really excited to get into the tool, and this is what we're going to be spending the rest of our time doing. So Tim, do you mind if we keep you on board for the training, and then we can share if you followed some of the same best practices that we put together, and if not, what you did differently, and how we can both learn from each other. All right, perfect. All right, so we're gonna skip this for the moment, but I want to make sure that if folks have questions specific for Tim, drop them in the chat, and we'll be returning to it at the end of our presentation. But I think let's use this moment to ask ourselves, and maybe Tim, you might be the perfect person to start this with. What should we be thinking about when we're putting together our needs for getting ready to scale? Like, actually, you know what? I'm not going to put all of that on you. I want you to let that simmer a little bit. We've got our own Asana expert, Sam Sorkin, on the line. Sam, you've been so patient. Why don't you hop right in and join us?
Hey there, Michael. Hey, Tim. Thanks for letting me join. This has been amazing. And, I work with customers every day as a customer enablement manager, working in the program lead role. And I get to work with them to scale their impact and create these templates. And I just love hearing what that actually means in your real world, because I recognize not everyone's living in Asana all day, but we're going to do that now. And we're going to make sure to go over how to do this. So let me go ahead and take over that screen share.
All right, let me stop sharing for you. We're passing the mic over to Sam.
All right. And are y'all able to see?
We can see it. I'm going full screen.
Perfect. All right. So when we think around scaling impact with, when we want to get ready to scale, right, there are going to be 3 key things that you need to do so you're ready to scale. The first is you have to decide what is the scope of what you're templatizing. So we got to hear about this the grant management. Maybe you're doing a yearly fundraising. Is it this big giant project, or is it something you're doing every month that you got to keep the lights on? Whatever that process is, if you have to do it again, we're able to templatize it. The second decision you need to make is where to manage that work. And you can't really decide this one until you decide the first decision. How big is the work? And then that third step is making sure you trust the data. This is essential regardless the size of the work that you're templatizing. And really this you should do from the beginning. Don't wait till you templatize. You've got to be able to trust your data. All right. Thinking around that first question, how do you decide the scope of the work you're templatizing? We've got to have a clear mental model of how Asana is organized. Now, I know a lot of you out there have been using Asana for a long time, which is awesome. Some of you maybe are a little newer. And one thing that I find surprising is when I work with customers, oftentimes folks that have been using it for a long time haven't necessarily set up their Asana in a way that sets them up for success. So if you're someone out there who has a ton of stuff in your Asana, I'm encouraging you to think through this mental model and make sure it aligns with what you're doing in Asana. So think of Asana as your virtual office. To get into your Asana virtual office, you would go to asana.com and you would log in with your email. Well, to get to your real office, you're going to commute there. Maybe you swipe your badge, you're in, and that badge is like your email address. So that is your organization in Asana. In your real office, you'd walk up the stairs, maybe you go up to that second floor, and you'd sit down alongside your teammates. Well, in your virtual office in Asana, you don't have stairs, you just have a team, you and your teammates. Now, on this second floor, you and your team, you're busy, you're getting work done. You're doing big projects that are driving various things like that annual planning, managing grants, and these are all your projects. And yes, they're going to be cross-functional, but these are the projects that you and your team are responsible for. So you're going to have teammates maybe come down to that second floor and they're going to join you on those projects that you and your team are owning. Now, again, in your virtual office, no stairs, just projects housed under your team with all your teammates, and you'll be able to bring in whatever program partners or other teammates to your project. Now, if we think around it, in your virtual office, you've got this Asana project, and you're not able to get to that annual planning, you're not able to do that yearly fundraising without having a whole bunch of very clear steps that everyone is doing, right? So in Asana, those are tasks. Now, in your real office, it's probably a sticky note that's on your desk with the things that you need to do, and your teammates got a sticky note. So thinking around the type of work that you've got and how it maps. The last piece is thinking around in that virtual office, right? You've got a whole bunch of projects you're working on. So in your real office, you've got the project and you probably have that filing cabinet, right? And you pull out a drawer and you'd have all of those file folders, or you used to have file folders. I remember them, I had them. Well, we don't have those anymore. In Asana, you've got portfolios, and that's what we're going to be using to manage those larger projects. All right. So there's our mental model. For those of you that have been using Asana, make sure that those projects are those bigger initiatives. All right. So thinking around the framework of all of the work that you do to really understand what is a project, what is the scope of the work that I need to templatize, let's consider this framework. There are 3 types of projects. So all the work you do, project size, can be broken into either one of these 3. The first type of project is deadline bound. These oftentimes, right, there's a very clear start date, you're going to end, and you're going to do things in a sequential order. The best practice is seeing these in custom project templates, because the next time you do it, you want to repeat the process, not reinvent the wheel. Right? The second type of project is an ongoing process. These are things that you do over and over. So if you think around, your team probably has to do things all the time, and other teams are asking you, and program partners and stakeholders. So that is a request project, and you're always going to have to fill out those requests. So it's an ongoing project. And in that one, your task is going to be moving through, the work is going through. So task templates. We have a way to templatize and make it so you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time somebody asks you to do that thing. They're going to ask you next month. Today, we're not going to dive into templatizing a task because we're going a little bigger. We're going to go into those custom project templates with the deadline bound projects. Now, planning and reference, phenomenal. We don't have time to talk about it today, but we're going to have more time later, and you have resources in your bootcamp. So go through those. Today, though, we're going to zoom in and we're going to make that first decision for the size of the work that we're going to templatize. It's a big scope. We're thinking big. So we're going to go with the project template, deadline bound.
So I actually, I think this is a good opportunity to check in with Tim. Is that aligning with the approach that you took in the templates that you created? Was that a template project that you used, or was it a template task?
Great question.
Yeah.
Yeah, you used a template project. Is there a reason why you chose that? Like, I'm imagining the number of tasks that you need to make sure that you're following, because compliance, as we learned, is super complex.
Yeah, I mean, just the number of projects that we have in our template just made it really kind of essentially we started out originally, we were just mapping out our first project without even really knowing that templates existed. And then we realized, oh, you can make this a template and you don't have to do this every time. And so that's kind of how we got started. But that ever since that we've been building off of that same template.
I love it. That is exactly why we're here. Sam, back to you. Sorry to interrupt.
No,
I
it's
got
perfect.
excited.
And yeah, and I love hearing, Tim, that you discovered templates because, working with customers, they say, I've streamlined my stuff, and they'll show me their screen. And sometimes they don't actually have templates. They're just duplicating the project, which is still faster, but we can do it faster. So I love hearing, Tim, that y'all discovered that. And the timing that you discovered is perfect after you've completed a project. So you've already kind of gone through and you've got something that worked. Now we want to templatize it. So do the project first, figure it out however makes sense, and then go forward to templatize. Love it. So we've got the first decision of the size of the work and that we want to templatize. It's a project. We've got the second decision made. We want to manage it in a portfolio. Now, the third step that we need to do is making sure we trust the data. For this, we really want to make sure that you trust your data, and we're doing this in the tool. So I'm going to go ahead and let's get in the tool. Yes, we love Asana, and we love that there's a completed button, right? Oh, so many celebrations. So we're looking at a completed project. This is a Women in STEM after school action plan. We got a great boot camp to help you build out your deadline bound project. So if you want help building out your first deadline bound project in that second boot camp, click the first task in your resources. It'll take you there. Then come back to here and you're good. But stay here now. So here we've got our project, and I'm going to collapse my side navigation so we could see it. If we want to confirm that our custom fields are in our library so we can trust the data, you need to go to a project. You want to click your customize button in the top right. From there, you're going to see that you've got a side toolbar that slides out, and these are all the tools you have for this project. Figuring out ways to automate and leverage Asana so you have your time back. For custom fields, they're right at the top. When I scroll over them, you're going to see that the ones that I have editing powers I've added, I have a pencil. When I click on that, it's going to open up the custom field, and this is that editing frame. This is where you come to say, whew, I'm going to trust my estimated budget numbers. And when I do my reporting, everyone's going to trust it because this is in the library. That first box is checked. So you've got to check it there. This second box, if you're on Asana Business or Enterprise, you've got it, you got to check it. If you're on Asana Premium, you see it, but you can't check it until you start your trial and check it, because this way you can be sure that whatever you put in there is going to be aligned. And if someone needs to change things, they're going to be able to reach out to you. So trust your data by making sure your custom fields are in the library. And I want to show you this one. We've got that numeric custom field. If you have a single select or a multi-select custom field, don't be alarmed. You'll have 3 boxes down there. I recommend for the majority of your custom fields, you need that top one, all of them. You need that bottom box, all of them. Sometimes you need the middle box. Be intentional though, because it can get a little noisy. So top and bottom always. And then once you've checked and confirmed that all of the custom fields in your project that we're going to templatize are in the library, we're ready to go.
Actually, before we start that, Tim, what are some of the custom fields that are most important for your line of work and the metrics that you want to be tracking? What are you adding to your library and making sure that you're tracking those and that you can trust that data?
I mean, what we have is our cross-functional projects. So we have all our departments as fields, and essentially like which team is responsible for that is just a drop-down menu. And the amount of the award is another one. I know sometimes we use text fields if we wanted to monitor like specific updates on task at kind of a high level visibility level as well.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So process ownership and tracking budgets, core needs. Love it. Back to you, Sam.
Yeah, it's great. Oh, custom fields are so powerful. Yeah, okay. We got more stuff though, but get your custom fields in the library. So we have gone through to the next one here, right? We have 3 things that we need to do to get ready to scale. We need to identify what we want to templatize. We've done that. Check. We're doing projects today. You can do tasks if that's what you decide is best. You can do both. No need to pick just one. Reject the false trade-off. The second decision that we need to decide is where are we going to manage it? And we're going to do a portfolio. We're going to show that we understand in the mental model where the portfolio is. In our real world office, it's that filing cabinet. In our virtual office, it's a portfolio. We're going to see it in the tool. And then the third thing that we need to do, and you can do it now, you don't have to wait till you're ready to scale. You could do it now. Go get those custom fields in the library so you trust your data. Once you're ready to scale, now we're ready to templatize the process. And again, 3 steps. Yep, you're seeing a theme. The first step is going to making sure that we create that custom project template from an existing project. So you really want to do it first, right? Just like Tim said, he did that project first. They jumped in and they needed to get the work done. After you do that, then you're ready to go ahead and templatize it. The second thing to templatizing your process is standardizing the tasks, the signees, and the due dates, because the next time you do it, it's the same process, but those details are going to be different. You might be partnering and hosting that event at a different location. So definitely want to standardize it. And then the third step is knowing exactly when the work is being done that you really care about, because there's a lot of things to do in a project. And sometimes you just need to see at a high level, how's it tracking? So aligning on those pieces. All right. To do this, we are in the tool. We all know that this is that deadline bound project. We completed it. It was successful. We trust our data because the custom fields are in the library. So the first step is going to be coming to your project action menu, and you're actually going to want to duplicate the project. Now, I know that duplicate's kind of a dirty word, right? Because once you duplicate it, now you have like 2 different things of the same work going on, and you updated it here, but someone's looking over there, and you really don't want to duplicate stuff. So this is like that exception time. There's always exceptions. You want to duplicate the project because we want to make sure that we keep that accurate historical repository of how did that project go. So we've got it there, we've got it saved, we're going to create a duplicate, and we're going to do a couple things because we don't need to bring all those project members into this duplicate. It gets noisy, let's be respectful. So we're going to uncheck that project members, and then we're going to go ahead and click create new project. Now, sometimes this takes a minute, and if your internet's working hard, you're working hard, take the stretch. We don't have time for stretching, so we actually already duplicated it. So I'm just going to go there, and you might love these boxes down here. I feel like it's whack-a-mole. We don't really need this duplicate, so bye-bye. Oh, actually, I want the duplicate, but we're not going to use it yet. Uncheck project members, create it. It's working. We're stretching. But we're going to go to the other duplicate because here you're going to see that all of these tasks are marked incomplete. And when the other duplicate comes back, you're going to see all of those are going to be marked complete because it's duplicating the project we already did. So we want to make sure you save time and you're able to unmark all the tasks complete in order to make sure that you're saving time. And let's save a little time. I'm just going to show you the inverse action here. I can multi-select them all, and all of the tasks, yes, we need celebrations, are complete. So when your duplicate of your project is done, when that wheel's over, you're going to land in your project and it's going to look just like this. The first thing you need to do is unmark all these tasks complete. Keep the dates. It's okay if they're red. And again, this is the exception. It's the only time it's okay they're red. We want to use that so we don't have to reinvent the timeline. So when you get to that project, you'll click on the first row, hold down Shift, scroll to the bottom, and click on the bottom row. That's how you can multi-select tasks that are in a group. And if you like that, you can also multi-select tasks that aren't together. We've got a great guide article. You can find it. Someone will drop it in there. Google's got it. But from here, I've got a multi-select action menu. And I can multi-select up to 50 tasks at one time. Luckily for this, we've got 26. Good planning. All right, in one click, they're unmarked complete. I don't need that multi-select menu anymore. The next thing I need from this duplicate is to actually save it as a template. So I'm going to go back to that project actions menu, and I am going to go just below duplicate, and I'm going to click save as a template. All right, here we go. We're doing the template. we need to standardize the name of the project, because you know what, the next time we do this after school action plan, it might be with a different partner. It might not, but most likely it is. So we want to be really intentional. This action plan also took 2 years. I heard when Tim, you mentioned that you're doing that annual planning and you said 5 years. Whew, it's a lot. Imagine a day maybe where you do like a 2-year planning or a 10-year planning. So using a naming convention. So for here, I'm going to go ahead and lead with the timing, and I'm going to put it in brackets because I dream of the world where we've got the different templates for different times. And I promise I'm not yelling at you, even though I'm typing in all caps. Program partner, having things in all caps is going to be a great convention. So when people use the template, when they see the all caps, they know they need to input their specific for that piece. So we're going to have a naming convention for the action plans. It's going to be 2 years. For this one, they're going to replace program partner. I'm going to get a little fancy with that line. And then it's the after school action plan. We have just standardized the name for our action plan. The next thing is, where do we want this project to live? And we want anybody that's on staff to be able to use this process for an action plan, because remember, it's just a deadline bound process. So let's democratize this process by making it available to the entire staff. And whoa, flag on the field. We don't want anyone on staff to edit our process, right? Like, we've worked hard, we've proved this works for that action plan, this works for managing grants. We want them to use it, not edit. Very different. So click into this box and select anyone in the team can use. Glad we did that one. And then we're going to click create template. This is that stretch break that for reals we're not taking this time because we got more stuff to do. So we're going to let that build out, and we're going to go ahead and look at how that template is going to look when we look at that project we completed. We loved it. We still have that accurate repository. And then what does the template look like? Because it's going to be a little different, right? So we've got to standardize everything. We already saw that that title was standardized. And here we've got that specific project title. We don't want to make it specific always. Here we've got specific tasks. And I know that the font gets small, it gets small for my eyeballs, but you can see in that first task under the planning section that we have aligned what 50% of 9 school districts means with the Athena Foundation. Maybe Athena Foundation is going to give us more money, most likely, because we heard of that retention rate. So yeah, but maybe it's a different school district. Maybe it's a different percentage. So we need to make sure that in the template, it's not specific to those 50% of 9 schools. The other things that we need to do is make sure that all of these specific assignees, the partners we work with for this action plan, they might not be working with us on the next one. Some might, but most probably aren't for this particular flow. So we have specific assignees in our specific project. We also have specific dates. Now, these are going to be leveraged, but we don't want them specific because you know what? October 16th, 2020 came and went. So if we kept it, then we'd have red due dates. We also have specific milestone tasks. Now, these are those key things when we say, hey, how is that action plan going? They don't really care about all 28 or 58 or 108 tasks. Ooh, 108 would be a lot, maybe break up it. They care about those key tasks. And those key tasks, you want to use your milestone tasks. Not only because visually it's very pleasing seeing that diamond, but you're going to see when we manage a whole bunch of these, the milestones are really visible and easy to see. So we've got the specific project. What does your template look like? This, right? You'll notice you're going to have that sidebar, build your template, 3 phases. In step 1 is where you're going to do a ton of this standardization. So you can see here, love that animation. We've standardized the project title. So we've got the brackets for 2 years. So it's really clear. Program partner, but not really yelling, just signaling, replace it. And then after school action plan, leave it be. Check out this next one, standardized tasks. And maybe you do a different format for having the date, but you can standardize how people do it. I never thought of myself as a detailed person, but when I look and I see someone write like January 31st, 2022, and then the next one says like Jan 30, 22, and then it's like 1, 3, 30, 22. It's just no good. Standardize it and make it easy. So we've got a clear naming convention that people don't have to work hard for. They just fill in the blanks and replace the capitals. You'll also see we've standardized the assignees. Now that means that some of these tasks aren't going to have assignees because we don't know who that partner is. But we've got Olivia, and Olivia is the one that is owning, managing all of the notes and running the meetings. So we don't need to remember every time we kick off an action plan to assign this to Olivia. We're going to do it in the template. And for those of you that have been using Asana and maybe have a template, this 2.0, it's not going to show up in Olivia's My Tasks. And if you're like, templates 2.0, this is the first time, then just ignore what I just said. But those of you out there know what I'm saying. Also the dates. Now these, we didn't have to do anything because we took a project that we already completed, that we had dates in. Asana, I know you didn't think we could do math, but we did. We put in these dates, and in your template, you're able to choose, do I want it relative to when I start my project? Or do you want to think about the days before you complete your project? So you can see here, these are days after. Now you want to decide on when someone uses this project, what date are they going to know? And for an action plan, when someone goes to kick it off, they know I'm starting today. And yeah, we know, we hope we have an idea when we're going to end, but like, you know, you're starting today. So I'm going to create this project with that in mind. So that's the reference point. You get one or the other, right? So picking there and then standardizing the dates. And then your milestones, those key things, right? So here we know that any action plan, there's going to be signed letters of commitment. So we're keeping that framing, but we don't know what percentage of schools in that school district are going to be needed. And we don't know with what foundation. So again, not yelling, but using those capitals to keep that convention. So when people see capitals, they know that you're either yelling, but hopefully not. It's really just replace it with your stuff. So here we've got that standardized process. All right. Step 3, making sure that you're set up to easily manage and report on the work you need to do. We have gotten ready. We've done the 3 steps to templatize the process, created the custom project created the custom project template using a project we already proofed out. Remember to duplicate it, unmark it complete, and then do it. Step 2 was standardizing. So take anything specific and standardize it. So you don't have to standardize it and work harder later. And then step 3, make sure that you are set up to report on those milestones, those key tasks easily. All right. So to manage and communicate, that's where we're at. You want to make sure that you have 3 best practices down. So we're going to just keep with the theme of 3. And the first one is automating the work getting into your portfolio, because remember, we're using a portfolio in your real world, that filing cabinet, to manage all these action plans. And you don't want to have to go, man, I hope the person on the staff team, and we got a big staff this year and volunteers, we had like 300 people that could be using this project, and I need to manage the action plan. I don't want you to have to stay awake at night going, shoot, did they put it in there? We're going to automate it. So that's going to really help save time. The second best practice is going to be getting comfortable with the different views, because your project, you got a lot of different views, but I only use one because that's what's comfortable for me. But you have value in the others. So I don't want you to do what I do in a project. In your portfolio, we're going to see how to use each of the views that you have, depending what information you need. And then the third best practice we're going to cover is communicating directly where the work is happening, exactly with the people you need. And I know that resonates because a lot of y'all, I saw, a lot of pain points, or you've got things stuck in Google Docs, you've got things in SharePoint, you've got things in email. You don't need to spend your time looking for stuff. If it's all in one spot with all the people that you need, you're good to go. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the tool. Now here, we left off at step 1. Remember, we want to make sure that we automate how this project gets into our portfolio. That's actually in step 3 of building your template. So I'm going to go ahead and jump to step 3. From here, we can see that if we changed our mind how we wanted to standardize the name, which team, we have another option here. So all about second chances. Remove any of the project members that were maybe specific. but getting down here to add projects to portfolios. Now we've already created a portfolio to capture all of the California action plans. So I'm going to just start typing the title of a portfolio, and I'm going to click here and select it. And when I hit add, now anytime somebody uses this project template, it's automatically going to be added to my portfolio. And done would be that final process. Now, I know we're getting close to the end of time. So before we stop, we're going to use the template. We're doing it, folks. I know you're like, we only have 5 minutes left. It's okay. It doesn't take that long to kick off an action plan. I'm going to go to the plus sign because that's where I go when I want to do anything new. Plus, I want to do a project the size of the work. I want to use that rocket ship, hit the middle tile to use a template. Now, yes, I can click on it here, but maybe when you go, you don't automatically see it. You want to make sure that you click under start with a template to build your project or workflow. Under all types, you select custom to find yours. If you don't have one yet, check out the Asana curated. There's a phenomenal one that Michael actually built for grant fundraising that is beautiful. Check it out. But I'm going to click custom and you'll see it's going to bring up the custom ones. Apologies, there's a couple on there because, well, you know, we practiced. So here I'm going to go ahead and select this one. I'm going to use the template. And I'm going to go ahead and replace what's yelling at me. And I'm going to go with BBBSA because, Tim, I know that y'all would partner with this after school action plan. We want to keep it on staff. We want this public to the team. This isn't editing. This is so people can see our work. And we know the start date. We're going to start this tomorrow. And we're going to create the project. And we are going to take this stretch break. And this is being created. And you know what? While it's being created, we've already seen these things come through. And I'm going to go ahead and click into our portfolio because y'all are here to see how to manage projects. Now, I'm going to collapse this sidebar. It is going to take a minute because you know what? It's a lot of work in there. But you can see here, we've got a lot of projects. And there's that original one hiding behind the box. You see all the information. I'm going to come to this list view in my portfolio to get high-level information to see if things are on track. I could even bring those milestones even higher because I know we're using them and I can immediately see, wait a minute, we missed that one and hover over. But maybe I'm that visual person. I want to be able to see like, how's everything tracking over time? Then I'm going to go to my timeline view. And now I can see the project start and end date. I can see those key milestone tasks and not all the noise of all the tasks. And I know we have more to do, but y'all have other meetings. I know. So you're going to come back when we do the next session. And the next session, we're jumping right into this tool and we're going to show some more pieces, but we're also going to say, hey, what questions do you have for us? So I really appreciate y'all coming. I really am excited for you to go through that boot camp. And when you come back, bring your questions and bring your feedback on the boot camp. So when we make the next one, we can make it better. So tell us how to do that.
That is the perfect segue, Sam. Thank you for that tour de force. Tim, thank you for joining us. Your story was super inspirational. For folks who are excited to dive into the training directly, stay tuned to our follow-up email so that you can sign up for our Consult for You session. And in the meantime, make sure that you quick import this, this training template, the Asana for Nonprofits Bootcamp #2, so that you can jumpstart your training and really dive in and have us make sure that you're doing it right or how to change it, and we can all learn from one another. Thank you all. We really appreciate your time. Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, y'all. See you soon at the next session. Get those custom fields in the library.